Welcome back to the Elias Macko Show, 1020 CJAD 800 time. Now, as Iran's military efforts against Israel fall short, supporters of Tehran are returning to artificial intelligence to fabricate victories. Reporting from Tel Aviv, columnist Adam Zivo says pro-Iranian networks are flooding social media with deepfakes and misleading images to falsely portray Israel as devastated, and the spread of this AI-driven disinformation is becoming a new front in modern warfare. Adam Zivo joins us right now over Zoom. Hi, Adam.
Hi, thanks for having me on the show.
Listen,
And as you said,
go
disinformation is really bad.
Disinformation is really bad, but first things first, it does seem you always flee to safety, don't you? It seems like every time we talk, you're in Ukraine, and now you're in Israel. I got to ask you, why do you choose to go to some of the world's, hot spots?
Well, so you know what? I'm a reporter for a TV channel called the News Forum, and I actually came to Israel at the end of May for a few weeks to cover queer life in Israel. So I went to Jerusalem Pride. I was planning on going to Tel Aviv Pride, and then what do you know? War broke out, and then I was stuck. uh,
Yeah.
But I'll be honest, it actually wasn't really that bad for me because I'm used to having Iranian drones explode in the city that I'm in.
Mm.
And what I really want to emphasize is that Israel really kicked Iran's butt in this war. So though there was some anxiety in the first day or two, that quickly receded when people realized that Iran was crippled in that first strike and that it wasn't able to launch all the ballistic missiles that it wanted, and that as long as you went to your bomb shelter and followed protocol, you'd be okay.
And it seems like the strategy has been, if you can't beat them in real life, we'll try and beat them in the non-reality of deep fakes and misinformation. Let's get to that part of this story. If they haven't been able to have a real victory, what is Tehran doing here that is so interesting?
Well, so first of all, they're using a lot of old footage that has been mislabeled
Mm.
as being in Israel. So, for example, they're taking footage from the war in Iraq and saying that these buildings exploding are in Israel and that this is Tel Aviv. They're also taking footage from Ukraine and doing that too. But that tactic has been around for a while. For
Mm.
example, when Israel launched its war in Gaza against Hamas, you had a lot of footage and many photographs from the Syrian civil war that was misrepresented as being Israeli atrocities against Palestinians. Now, that doesn't mean that Palestinians didn't suffer. They certainly did in many respects, but propagandists use Syrian images there to make things seem worse. So we saw the same thing happen again here, where you would see an image of a building exploding in Kyiv, and people would say that this is not like that.
Mhm.
This is Israel, and so that part, though, not surprising, but what is somewhat surprising, or I guess more depressing, is the use of AI. So
Mm.
you had all of these influential accounts that were sharing AI videos, some of which were really obvious, some which were less so. So,
And
for
that so,
example,
so yeah, that's what I want to get to, right? Because and I'm trying to think about the AI videos that I'm seeing now in my day to day. Boy, do they it grinds my gears, when I see this AI stuff, and I'm hoping to myself that it's 99 times out of 100 that I'm spotting it, right? But I'm worried about if there's stuff going through my filter. Um, so I want to get to just how convincing it is, because boy, do I see a lot of AI stuff where I'm like, how does anyone believe this? This looks so fake.
well, so here's the thing. Uh, in the article that I wrote for the National Post, there was, I cited, for example, this one video that was shared by a Chinese run account, and they said this is Tel Aviv before and after
Mm.
Iran strikes. And that one was really obvious because essentially you had these terrible CGI explosions that look like, cheap special effects from 15 years ago, and the objects in the video didn't make any sense.
Mhm.
And despite the fact that it was obviously not real, it was viewed more than 200,000 times with thousands of likes. Now, the Tehran Times, though, is did something where they shared a video of a missile hitting a building at night. And the Tehran Times is a mainstream Iranian media outlet. Now, if you were just looking at the video, it'd be hard to tell that it's AI because in nighttime footage, you can't really see much to begin with. So you don't have a lot of
Aha.
detail that you can work with. But This particular clip was flagged because they forgot to take out the watermark on the bottom right corner of the video indicating that it was generated by Google's AI system.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So there you
Uh,
go. I mean, obviously that's a dead giveaway. I got to ask you, is there evidence people are falling for it?
yes, absolutely. I mean, for example, the one that I mentioned with the Tehran Times, you had hundreds of thousands of views.
Mhm.
And
But
people in general are
views
just
doesn't mean they've bought it.
when you look at all the likes and you look at the
Yeah.
comments, you can see that people really do seem to think that this is real.
Hmm.
And here's another way that I can, illustrate the fact that people have bought into this narrative that Tel Aviv has been destroyed, for example. So, in the middle of the war, I shared a video from the beaches of Tel Aviv because people were actually quite relaxed and people were jogging and playing
Yeah.
volleyball. Because once again, Iran had really been neutralized so quickly for the most part. And I shared that on Twitter and on Instagram, and it went viral and it was viewed
Mm.
millions of times. And interestingly enough, the comments were flooded with people saying that this isn't real, that this is old footage. So there was almost an act of projection here. And
Interesting.
some of these, yeah, look, some of these people started to say that this is AI, right? Um, and so you see that AI has created a general distrust because not only do you have AI footage that is being misrepresented as real footage, you have people then seeing real footage that they don't like and slandering it as AI. And then
Mhm.
on top of that, people were asking AI chatbots whether or not my video was real. And these chatbots aren't equipped to answer that question. They're not fact checkers because
Yeah.
chatbots make things up when they don't have info.
Yeah.
So it would give inconsistent answers, and people would then say, well,
There's
if the
proof.
chatbot
Look, I've got proof. A chatbot said this.
exactly.
Hmm.
So that's another way that AI is eroding our shared sense of reality in the middle of war. And I
Hmm.
think that's deeply concerning when AI is being used to create fake content and is being used as a shoddy fact checker. And I think that is concerning when it comes to the information space of future conflicts.
With Adam Zivo, National Post columnist. He's in Tel Aviv right now. Adam, who's the target? Like, so, if Tehran is behind much of this stuff, are they trying to like strike fear in Israelis? Is it just a propaganda war worldwide? Who's the target of either this AI or misinformation?
It's hard to say. I would say part of it is to demoralize Israelis,
Mhm.
but I think it's also intended for international audiences primarily because some of these videos are so ridiculous that there's no way that anyone in Israel would believe them at all, right? When you look at these videos of Tel Aviv being completely destroyed, I mean, it's absurd, right? It would be like someone sharing a video of Montreal being destroyed and saying this is your reality, and anyone in Quebec would say no, that's not true.
Yeah.
Um, so it's influencing global opinion around the war. And I would imagine that that has some impact on the political discourse. Now, I want to emphasize that even though Iran is behind a lot of this disinformation and spends a lot of money on these bot networks, you also have some unscrupulous influencers who are spreading these narratives as well.
Mm.
For example, there's a formerly respected military expert by the name of Douglas McGregor, and he claimed, not with AI, he just wrote, that don't believe the media. The damage in Israel is worse than you think. One
Mm.
third of Tel Aviv has been destroyed. And when I read that from the safety of Tel Aviv, where, maybe a few missiles landed, but 99.9% of the city is fine, I thought
Yeah.
to myself, is this man smoking crack?
Yeah. Well, but what it is there's whether there's money behind it or whatever it is, that's getting people. There's an economic motive at times on social media platforms now to get likes and to get a share of revenue sharing, right? I think that's part of the issue now on X is that creators, anyone with a blue check mark, is getting a check from X. And how do you get more money? You got to make sure more people view your content, and the more outlandish your content is, the more people will view it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So you have, three main engines of disinformation. You have state-sponsored bad actors and
Mm.
bot networks. Then you have unscrupulous influencers. But those ones, it's hard to say exact. Some of them are ideological.
Yeah.
But then on top of that, you have these influential accounts that are created by people in India or Pakistan, and they're really just trying to game the system and milk the monetization of
Uh,
social media by posting ridiculous inflammatory material, including AI war-related content. Right, and they
What
should def-
role? What should the social media platforms do? Can they do anything, or is it all up to education, and everyone needs to protect themselves?
Well, look, so right now Twitter has a community note system
Hmm.
where essentially it is a communal editing system where you can have notes attached to certain posts to provide additional context. But I think the important thing here is that social media platforms should publicly provide information on where accounts have been registered. So if you
Oh,
have an account that calls itself, American Patriot, I stand with MAGA, and I'm sharing content showing that the Jews are being destroyed in Tel Aviv, and then you can see that the account was registered in Pakistan,
yeah.
you can tell that there's something wrong. So I don't know why they haven't done that yet.
Yeah, and more transparency, right? It comes down to more transparency can be a solution to a lot of this. Adam, we got to leave it there. Stay safe in Tel Aviv. Seems like it is safe. So we'll talk again real soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
That's a National Post columnist Adam Zivo right there.